You want to hear all about it? Fine. Let me start with this moment. Emily Anderson on her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks, mascara staining the faint freckles on her face. She's trembling. Her hands grip my ankles. And me? I'm sitting on that old leather armchair in our living room, the one we bought 7 years ago at a weekend sale when we still acted like a real couple. It squeaks whenever I shift my weight, as if complaining about the tension in the air. My voice is hoarse from holding back everything I've wanted to say. There's a pistol resting on the coffee table by my elbow, and my fingers keep grazing it like it's the edge of a cliff I might leap from at any second. I can't even stand to look at her eyes. But I do. I look down, see how her shoulders quake, how her hair, that fashionable light chestnut amber, spills over her tear-stained cheeks. I see her lips move, whispering, "David, please." David Anderson. I'm so sorry. And I can feel something break inside me again, in that place I thought was empty already. I set my jaw, and for a moment I feel that wave of guilt. Stupid, false guilt, because part of me believes I drove her to this. That I wasn't enough. That I failed as a husband. But then the rage surges back, that hot coil in my gut that's been keeping me awake for weeks. She keeps whispering, promising she'll change, that she'll do anything to fix this. And I know she feels terrified because I've never been this silent. I've never refused to give her a single comforting word. But tonight there's nothing left for me to say. Instead, I recall how all of this started. Because up until now, I'd been living a lie. Or maybe I was just wearing blinders, ignoring the small cracks that had begun to spiderweb through our marriage. I guess if you want the whole story, you'll have to bear with me. It's not pretty. But you asked to hear it all, right? Let me pull the thread back to a few weeks ago. The night I found out. Actually, I should say the night the damned algorithm found out for me. I was tired from work, another day in the office, playing the role of the stable manager with the neatly knotted tie and a forced smile for the clients. By the time I got home, Emily was asleep. Or so I thought. I felt numb, drained, and for some reason decided to scroll online for a distraction. Ended up on a site I rarely visit, nothing big, just random, mindless content. Then the recommendations popped up. And there she was. Emily Anderson, my wife, in stockings and a bra that barely covered her. She was writhing on camera, moaning with a voice I barely recognized, a name I'd never heard before typed beneath the video. And in the corner of the frame, in that half-lit shot, there were these hands that weren't mine gripping her hips from behind. A moment later, the camera panned up, revealing the rest of the man, toned arms, tan skin, black hair. My brain stalled. My breath turned to sand in my throat. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, watching all 57 of her uploaded videos. Not skipping a single second. Each one hammered in the same truth, the woman I believed I knew, the woman who used to greet me at the door with a peck on the cheek and that sweet perfume, was living a life I never suspected. In some clips, she just teased the camera in lingerie. In others, she met with clients or partners. Some of them faceless, their heads conveniently cropped. But there was one face that showed up more than the others. A guy with confident eyes, a loud laugh, and a cocky smile. Jake Harris, though I didn't know the name at the time. He'd hold her while she moaned, and I could swear I heard her say things like, "He's too nice, too soft," or "My husband doesn't get me." She'd say it with this twisted little grin like she was revealing a secret to the world. I remember sitting there, the lamp in my living room flickering slightly. My coffee went cold hours ago, but I kept sipping, not even noticing the stale taste. By the time I finished the last video, my hands were shaking. Not from anger, at least not then. It was the confusion first, the sense of betrayal so deep it felt like a physical blow. The man I was in those hours, that was a different David Anderson. That was a man who couldn't breathe properly, a man who wanted to cry, scream, vomit, or run. I did none of those things. I just sat quietly and stared at her face on the screen, memorizing every line of her expression when she looked at those other men with pleasure. You want to know the truth? Even then, even with all that heartbreak, I felt ashamed, like maybe I wasn't fulfilling her needs. That was the first wave of false guilt hitting me right in the face. You might think a normal person would run into the bedroom, switch on the lights, confront her, maybe even throw accusations at once. But I didn't. I stared at the bedroom door, listened to her soft breathing behind it, and felt a strange numbness drape over me. I walked outside onto the balcony instead, letting the cool night air sting my face. Something in me clicked, like a rusted gear turning for the first time in decades. I decided I wasn't going to rant or throw plates. I was going to watch, record, reflect. I wanted her to taste the same numbness, that same creeping dread, the sense that eyes were always on her. So I began collecting. The next morning, I placed a cup of coffee in front of her as usual. She smiled, half asleep, murmuring, "Thank you, hon," and I, with a polite nod, slid a small printed photograph across the table. It was a shot of her, in silhouette through the blinds, wearing that lacy bra I'd never seen before in our home. She blinked at it, looked at me, and I could see the panic flicker in her eyes. But she tried to hide it with a soft laugh. "What's this?" I shrugged. "Just a picture. You look nice." I spoke calmly. Her confusion was immediate. She opened her mouth, then closed it. "Where'd you get this?" I waited a beat. Held her gaze. "Recommendations." Then I walked away. I didn't speak of it again that day. Neither did she. She avoided me, drifting around the house like she was stepping on eggshells. That evening, I brought her dinner to the couch, sat beside her, pretended to watch some pointless reality show. Then I pulled out my phone and played an audio clip. It was her voice, sweet and high. "He's so weak. Too damn soft. My husband? He'll never suspect." She froze. The plate in her hands rattled. She turned to look at me, but I kept my gaze on the TV. "What's that?" she asked, her voice trembling. I didn't answer. I just turned off my phone and took the plate from her. "Not hungry anymore," I murmured, heading to the kitchen. That was how the next week passed. Each morning, a small reminder, a piece of evidence. A photo, a clip, a text I'd found on her phone. I never argued or raised my voice. I just let her see that I knew. I became a mirror, and I made sure she couldn't escape her own reflection. That's what I do, you know. I handle data in sales, but I also pay attention. I know how to gather, how to compile. I took her phone one afternoon, just for a second while she was in the shower, and discovered messages. Jake Harris, the name repeated, accompanied by photos I didn't have the stomach to keep looking at. But I saved them to a drive anyway, methodically, just in case I needed them. I felt no thrill in doing it, only a cold resolution. Meanwhile, that false guilt simmered underneath, that creeping doubt whispering, if you'd been a better husband, she wouldn't need to do this. Evenings were worse. I'd hear her in the next room, pacing, trying to record new videos in hushed tones. Sometimes I'd glance out the window and see her, from the balcony, talking on the phone with a man. My phone would record every word. There were times I saw her stand in the lamplight and strike a pose for the camera. I'd watch from the shadows, the tip of my cigarette glowing in the dark, and wonder how we'd gotten here. It started as heartbreak, then morphed into something else. By the end of that week, my chest felt like a hollowed-out cavity where love used to live. That was replaced by a quiet bitterness. But I still didn't confront her. Not in words. I was biding my time, letting her unravel. And unravel she did. Emily got paranoid. She looked over her shoulder constantly, checked her phone, rummaged through her text messages. She tried to speak to me a few times, beginning with, "David, I just want to talk. I've been feeling," but I just nod politely and walk away, leaving her hanging. One night, she brought me flowers after work, daisies, ironically. She stood in front of me, arms extended, that forced smile trembling on her face. "Remember these, from when we first met?" she asked, her voice shaking a little. "You used to bring me daisies." I nodded, took the bouquet, and set it aside without so much as a thank you. She bit her lip, tears welling in her eyes, then stormed off. I didn't stop her. I guess I wanted to see how far she'd go before she broke. Or maybe I wanted to push her to some kind of confession. But it wasn't a confession she gave me. Instead, she approached me a few days later, twisted her hands in her lap, and said, "We need a break. I think it's best if we have some space." I stared at her, and in my mind, I replayed those videos, her body pinned against the car door, her hands clinging to Jake Harris's shoulders, the way she flung her head back with that sickeningly convincing moan. A moan I'd never once heard in our bedroom. My stomach twisted, but outwardly I gave her a faint shrug. "If that's what you want." She blinked like she expected me to protest, maybe fight. But I just said, "Sure. Let me help you with your suitcase." I can still see the shock on her face as I unzipped that big navy blue luggage, the one we used for vacations. I calmly placed a few sets of her clothes inside, ignoring the trembling in my fingers. Emily stood beside me, biting her lip. "You're awfully calm about this." My voice cracked, just a bit, as I forced out, "I've always been calm, haven't I?" She watched me for a moment, almost frightened, then nodded. "Yes. Too calm," she whispered. She left that evening, though she didn't go far. She spent a few nights at a friend's place. I kept track of her comings and goings from the balcony, not because I needed more evidence, but because by then, I'd become addicted to that numb observation. Every morning, I'd text her a photo of us from years ago, smiling in front of some amusement park ride, her hair swirling in the wind, me with my arm around her waist. Under the photo, I'd type, "Remember when you said you wanted forever?" She rarely responded. Sometimes she'd just send a question mark or ask if I was okay. I wouldn't reply. Then the night came when I followed her to that parking lot behind the mall. She was meeting him. Jake Harris in the flesh, all cocky posture and confident grin. She slid into the passenger seat of his car, and I saw them lean in to kiss through the half-lowered window. That was the first time I felt the rage bubble over. My heart hammered so hard I heard the blood thrum in my ears. I lifted my phone, recorded a short video. I could practically see the steam of their breath in the chilly air, see how her arms wrapped around his neck. Everything inside me wanted to rush over and smash my fist into his face, yank her out of the seat by the hair. But I didn't. I clenched my jaw until my teeth ached, forced myself to remain quiet, and captured every second. It felt like some twisted, slow-motion car wreck, horrifying, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. She caught sight of me as I turned to leave, her eyes widening with panic. I just smiled at her, a cold, dead smile. Then I walked off into the darkness. She didn't call after me, didn't jump out of the car. Probably was too stunned. A minute later, my phone buzzed, her name on the screen. I declined the call. When I got home, I found myself rummaging through my closet, searching for something. My heart was pounding. I discovered an old metal box. Inside it was a relic from my past, a gun I'd bought legally years ago, more for some misguided sense of security than anything. I'd almost forgotten I owned it, never once fired it beyond a shooting range session. Holding it in my hand, I felt the weight of cold steel, and for a moment, a wild idea flickered in my mind. Retribution, real vengeance. But as soon as that thought passed, I recognized the truth. I wasn't picturing shooting her or that lover of hers. I was picturing the gun pressed against my temple. That was the depth of my despair. The false guilt, the sense of failure, it all came rushing in. Maybe this was a twisted scenario of punishing myself. Because obviously, I'd been too blind, too soft to keep her satisfied, right? I set the weapon aside, laid down on the bed we once shared, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. My mind raced through every memory, our wedding day, the hotel suite we spent the night in, the stolen kisses in the back of my old Jeep. All those recollections felt like illusions now. Because the woman I saw in those videos, the woman with parted lips and painted red nails arching her back for strangers on camera, wasn't the Emily I thought I married. Or maybe it was, and I just refused to see it. She reappeared in my life about a week later with a single text. I need to talk. Please. I didn't respond. So she showed up unannounced, dragging that same navy blue suitcase. She was a wreck. Makeup smeared, hair disheveled, eyes so swollen they looked bruised. She practically collapsed in the doorway when I opened it. She put her palm on my chest, and I backed up a step. She fell to her knees right there on the threshold, hugging her suitcase with one arm and trying to grab my pant leg with the other. David. David Anderson, please. Just let me explain. My throat felt dry as sandpaper, but I said nothing. My hand twitched, wanting to slam the door in her face or maybe help her up. Instead, I just stood there, quiet. She inched inside on her knees, tears dripping onto the floor. She began babbling. It was a mistake, a stupid whim. I lost my mind. I needed money at first, but then it got out of control. I was lonely. You were always at work, you never noticed me, you never. I cut her off, my voice a low rasp. Never noticed you? I gave you everything. I built a life for us. She sobbed, pressing her forehead to the carpet. I know. But I was so stupid. Please. I swear it's over, everything's over. I told him I can't see him anymore, I can't. That's when I realized I wasn't even hearing her words. My mind was on the gun. I'd moved it earlier that day, placed it on the coffee table as if I'd known she would come. I could feel its presence in the room, a cold invitation. I left her kneeling there and walked into the living room. She followed, dragging the suitcase behind her like an anchor. I sank into the armchair. She placed the suitcase aside and knelt again, this time clutching my knees. I'm sorry, David. Please believe me. Something in me fractured. The last remnants of compassion, or maybe it was just that final bond of trust. I reached for the gun. She gasped, eyes going wide. My finger rested along the trigger guard, but not on the trigger itself. I wasn't even sure what I was going to do. Her voice cracked, raw panic flooding her words. No. God, David, no. Don't do this. I get it, you hate me, you must want me gone, but please. I exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the gun in my hand. Then I set it back down. This wasn't for you, I said, my voice trembling. It was for me. Her eyes flickered with confusion, then horror as she realized what I meant. That I'd actually considered ending my own life. Her lower lip trembled and she tried to speak, but words failed her. We sat in silence for a moment that stretched on forever. Then I let out a short, bitter laugh. What are you doing here, Emily Anderson? This is no longer your home. She pressed her palms together as if praying. I know I'm not welcome, but I had nowhere else to go. I left Jake. I couldn't keep lying. And I want to fix us. I stared at her. In that moment, I saw the ghost of the woman I once loved. Those familiar eyes, the trembling shape of her mouth. But I also saw every betrayal etched into her posture, the memory of her moans in those videos. My mind swirled with conflicting emotions, pity, disgust, heartbreak, fury. Then I remembered that I had recordings, pictures, 1,000 pieces of evidence. None of it would erase the ache in my chest. She laid a hand on my arm and I flinched so violently she pulled away. I don't want to hurt you anymore, she whispered. My voice came out unsteady. You've already done enough. You can't fix what you broke. There was a long, oppressive hush. She started sobbing, loud and unfiltered. I watched her shoulders shake, felt that pang of false guilt again. Stupidly, I wondered if I could have prevented all this by being more attentive. By noticing she was drifting away. By giving her more excitement in bed, more compliments, more spontaneity. But then I closed my eyes and recalled those car door kisses, the hotel room videos with that man's hands all over her. Let's not pretend that was my fault. She made her choice. Still, guilt is a twisted beast, it doesn't obey logic. Eventually she forced out, I know you want me to suffer. You probably hate me. But, please, let me stay, just for tonight. I opened my eyes, studying her. Why should I? She swallowed hard. Because I'm done lying. And I swear I won't ask anything from you except. I don't want you to do anything rash. I saw that gun. Her voice choked off, tears streaming down again. My chest tightened. A small part of me wanted to roar that she had no right to worry about my well-being after what she did. Another part felt the flicker of concern. Had I truly sunk so low she thought I'd pulled the trigger on myself? Then again, maybe I had. Finally, I nodded grudgingly. Fine. One night. You can sleep in the guest room. She seemed pathetically grateful, like I'd granted her the greatest mercy. She dragged the suitcase upstairs and I listened to her footsteps. Hours later, I heard her gentle sobs through the wall. I couldn't sleep. The gun lay on the coffee table, a silent presence, and I glared at it as though it were mocking me. My heartbeat sounded unbearably loud in the quiet house. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen, hair tied up, eyes puffy but determined. She was making coffee, the same brew we'd once enjoyed together. The smell wafted through the house, stirring some sense of nostalgia. I entered the room wearing the same stoic mask as before. She offered me a mug. David, she whispered, I really want to talk. I glanced at the coffee, then at her. Talk. Her eyes shone with desperation. I wasn't happy. We never talked about it. You got so busy at work. I felt invisible. I tried my design projects, but then I started that OnlyFans just for extra income. One thing led to another. People started paying attention to me. It felt good, I won't lie. I let it go too far. And Jake, he was just there at the bar. He made me feel alive, you know? Like I mattered. She paused, searching my face for any sign of sympathy. It was never about love, David. Not for him, not for me. It was about feeling wanted. A dull ache settled behind my eyes. You could have come to me, told me you felt ignored, I said quietly. She shook her head. I tried in little ways. But maybe I was scared you'd laugh, or... I don't know. By the time I realized how deep I was in, it was too late. I was in a cycle, the money, the adrenaline, the attention. I took a slow sip of the coffee, letting the bitterness coat my tongue. Attention from strangers was better than being my wife? She winced. No. I mean, I never stopped caring about you. But it became an addiction. Once you start, the lines blur so fast. I glanced at her shaky hands gripping the mug. That's your explanation? That you got addicted to feeling special? So you jumped into bed with some random guy while broadcasting it on the internet? She hesitated. Jake isn't exactly random. But yes, I guess so. It's messed up. I know it is. I'm not excusing it, I'm just telling you what happened. And I'm sorry. My throat tightened. The false guilt flared up again, along with a fierce anger. I wanted to shout, I tried to give you everything. I worked overtime, paid bills, did chores, bought you gifts. Was that not enough to make you feel special? But I swallowed the words. Instead, I said, get out. She recoiled. You said I could stay. Last night, I said you could stay one night. You've had it. Now, go. Her chin quivered. What if I promised to do anything to fix it? I stared at her, silent. She rushed on, we can go to counseling, I'll shut down every account, I'll never see Jake again, never. I swear. My lips pressed into a thin line. Emily Anderson, I said slowly, deliberately using her full name, there's nothing left to fix. You broke something that can't be repaired. Her tears spilled over again, but she nodded as if she half expected that answer. All right, she whispered. I'll go. She walked upstairs to gather her suitcase. I leaned against the counter, my mind a swirl of conflicting thoughts. Why did I feel an urge to grab her, hold her, tell her we'd figure it out? Why did I feel like the villain for wanting her gone? That stupid, stifling guilt clung to me like a wet coat, as if I were personally responsible for her betrayal. I heard her footsteps overhead. Then came a soft thud, as if she dropped something. A few minutes later, she descended the stairs, pulling that clunky suitcase behind her. She paused by the door, turning back to face me. David, for what it's worth, I really do love you. I always did. I let out a bitter laugh, my voice shaky. Love me? You destroyed me. She squeezed her eyes shut, tears slipping down her cheeks. I know, she whispered. Then she left, quietly closing the door behind her. After she was gone, I stood in that empty house, the smell of coffee still lingering in the air. I wanted to punch the wall or fling the mug across the room. Instead, I just sank to my knees on the cold tile floor, pressing my forehead against the cupboard. That moment stretched on until my legs cramped. Days went by in a blur. I forced myself to keep functioning, going to the office, showing up for meetings, trying to focus on spreadsheets and sales quotas. But my mind was a battlefield. Memories of her in those videos warred with recollections of our happier times. I replayed the scenario of her return, wondering if I'd done the right thing by not hearing her out more thoroughly. Part of me fumed at my own weakness. What if I'd never discovered the videos? Would she have told me on her own? Or would she have continued, growing bolder, filming more explicit scenes for her audience? There was a night I got a text from an unknown number. I'm so sorry. Please just be safe. I knew it was her. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I blocked the number. Her pleas, her tears, they all felt like illusions, late attempts at redemption after she'd bled our marriage dry. I guess it was 2 weeks later when I met Jake Harris in person. I recognized him from the videos, but in real life, his presence was even more infuriating. I'd stopped by a late-night grocery store on my way home from the office. He was there by the produce section, wearing a leather jacket over a tight black t-shirt, looking like he owned the place. Our eyes locked, and he gave me this cocky smirk. Hey, he said, rolling an apple in his palm. David, right? My heart pounded. I wanted to walk away, but something in me snapped. I stepped closer, letting him see the anger in my eyes. You've got some nerve talking to me. He raised his free hand as if in surrender. Look, man, I didn't know how deep it went between you two. Emily said you were basically done. Shut up, I hissed, my voice quivering with rage. It was the first time I'd let that fury out in public. Several heads turned our way and I forced myself to lower my tone. You knew she was married. You just didn't care. He shrugged as though it were no big deal. She wanted attention. I gave it to her. His eyes flicked over my dress shirt and tie. You look like the kind of guy who's a bit stiff. Maybe she needed something else. Not my fault. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. Not your fault, huh? My voice cracked, but I didn't back down. We made vows. She broke them with you. That makes you a scumbag, Harris. He ran a hand through his slick black hair, mouth twisting into a grin. Maybe, but you're the one who couldn't keep her interested. I just had fun. I felt a searing flash of red behind my eyes. My right hand shot out and I grabbed him by the collar, yanking him closer. The apple he was holding clattered to the floor. Our faces were inches apart. My breathing came in ragged bursts. You have no idea what you destroyed, I snarled. He didn't resist, just let me hold him there, smirking. Looks like you need to chill, man. Don't do something you'll regret in front of all these people. I glanced around, realizing shoppers were staring. My mind raced with the possibility, punching him in the mouth, smashing my fist into that smug face. But that would do what, exactly? Satisfy a momentary urge, maybe get me arrested. So I let him go, shoving him away. He stumbled back, but managed to stay on his feet. He raised his hands again. Suit yourself, he muttered. But if you ask me, this is between you and Emily. Stay away from me, I snapped and walked off without looking back. My heart thundered so loud I could barely hear anything else. When I got into my car, I sat there for a solid 5 minutes, hands shaking on the steering wheel, tears burning in my eyes. My entire body shook with the anger I had tried to keep contained for so long. Then I roared into the silence of the car, let out a guttural cry that tore at my throat. By the time I started the engine, I could barely see straight, but I drove home anyway, the gunmetal weight of my own impotence heavy on my chest. Emily tried contacting me several times after that. Different numbers, social media messages. I ignored them all. Or I read the messages but never responded. Sometimes she wrote, I'm sorry. Please let me see you. Other times, we should talk. It's urgent. Once she sent, I messed up, David. I know that, but I'm scared for you. That last message stuck in my mind. The fact that she worried I might hurt myself or do something drastic. And so we come back to the final moment. She did eventually muster the courage to come back, physically, with that damn suitcase. The tears, the begging, the kneeling. My hand on the gun, my mind swirling with whether to end it all or not. That's where I started telling you this story. Now you see how it got to that point? And there she is, kneeling on the living room floor, sobbing and pleading with me. Don't shut me out completely, she says, voice cracking. I know you can't forgive me right now or maybe ever. But please, just let me help you. Let me be here for you, if only to keep you from doing something you can't take back. My lips twitch in bitter amusement. You want to help? By staying in the house of the man you cheated on? Bold? She looks up, eyes red. If you tell me to leave again, I will. I just don't want you to be alone in your pain. My voice wavers, alone in my pain? Emily, do you have any idea what that means now? You were my wife. You were supposed to be the one person I'd never be alone with. And you took that away. She closes her eyes. I did. And I'm sorry. Then, tentatively, she reaches for my hand, which is resting on the armrest near the gun. Her fingers brush mine. A jolt of conflicting emotions surges through me, revulsion, longing, heartbreak, fury. I can't ask you to love me again, she whispers. But I'm asking you not to end your life because of my mistakes. I exhale sharply. My free hand covers my face and I feel the sting of tears. I hate that you still affect me, I say. That I can't just be cold and done with it. She nods, tears rolling down her cheeks and waves. I understand, she murmurs. I'll go if you want. I'll leave you in peace. But I needed to see you one last time. I feel that raw ache in my throat, the weight of the gun at my side. My shoulders sag. You want the truth? I ask quietly, my voice trembling. I took the gun out because I didn't know how much more I could take. This house is a mausoleum of memories now. Everywhere I look, I see us. I see the ghost of what we used to be. My voice cracks mid-sentence, but I keep talking. Maybe I felt like it was easier to go out on my own terms than keep living with this humiliation. She sobs louder, head bowed. David Anderson. I never meant to push you that far. I'm so sorry. Silence falls between us, broken only by her ragged breathing and the distant hum of the refrigerator. Finally, I speak, each word an effort. You have no access to me anymore, Emily. None. Not my thoughts, not my pain. And sure as hell not this house. She stares at me, her tear-filled gaze searching for a sliver of hope. I watch her eyes and I see that her desperation is real. She truly regrets what she's done, or at least the consequences it brought. But does that matter now? I pick up the gun, see her flinch, and then I set it aside again. My voice lowers to a near whisper. This bullet, it's not yours. It was never for you. You don't get to claim my life, even indirectly. She manages a small, hiccuping nod. She's trembling so violently her teeth chatter. I understand. I feel a faint smile tug at the corners of my mouth, a strange sense of release flooding my chest. There's clarity in this realization. She can't hurt me more than she already has, not unless I let her. And I won't. Pack up, I say softly. You're leaving. And you're not coming back. She lowers her head, tears dripping onto the floor. All right? She rises slowly, as though each movement costs her physical pain. She picks up the handle of her suitcase, glances at me one last time. Her eyes cling to my face, searching for any trace of affection that might remain. But I have none to give. She opens her mouth, but no words come out. Then she turns and walks to the door. For a fleeting moment, I recall the day we moved in here, excitedly lugging boxes, planning out furniture arrangements. Now she's leaving with a single suitcase and everything else, the trust, the memories, the future, is destroyed. The door clicks shut behind her. I listen to the hollow echo of her footsteps fading away. A deep breath shudders through me. The hush of the house feels oppressive yet strangely liberating. My gaze drifts to the gun once more and I slowly pick it up. My hand feels steady. I stand, walk to the hallway closet, open an old lockbox, place the weapon inside. My pulse throbs in my temples, but it's done. I'm not going to take my life. And I'm not going to jail for murder. I'm just done. With that resolved, I step outside onto the balcony, staring at the late afternoon sky tinted with orange and pink. The city hums below me, oblivious to my personal war. The sun feels warm on my face, a gentle reminder that time keeps moving. Maybe time doesn't heal all wounds, but it does grind them down to dust eventually. Or maybe it erases them in the grand scheme. Vanishes everything, I mutter under my breath. Emily's face flashes in my mind, the face she made on all those videos, the pleasure, the moans that weren't for me. Then I let that image go. I lean on the railing, tears burning the corners of my eyes. But after a moment, I breathe in, letting the crisp air fill my lungs. And somewhere in that mix of heartbreak and relief, I find the faintest trace of a smile twitching across my lips. Because everything that was once mine, my self-respect, my will to live, my identity, I've taken it all back. She doesn't get any more of me. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to keep me breathing tomorrow. I head inside, close the balcony door, and in the quiet, I finally allow myself a deep, exhausted sigh. This house, empty as it is, belongs to me. My life belongs to me. And maybe that's the only victory I need right now.